I am known by different names: solitude, loneliness, isolation. Call me what you like. People shudder at the very thought of my company, and yet I seek people. I have desperately sought companionship for all eternity. I usually find it, though some of you do not accept my cold, clammy handshake for the longest part of your lives. What you will see next are vignettes from a lifetime of my pursuits of one such woman. Once upon a time, in a city like the one we all grew up in, there lived a girl. She was not the girl next door, oh no, for at 16, she carried herself much as royal princesses would have at another age and time. Her beauty was legendary, and she turned heads wherever she walked. And yet, the word love jaded her, and she was just 16. But let me start at where all stories should start, at the beginning. And in this fairy tale, our princess did not spend her days gazing at the horizon, waiting for her prince to come. She did not believe in a love that the romantics spoke of, where your very breath is taken away from you and the clock slows down. At her young age, the only thing that excited her imagination was she herself. Her name was Vichitra. Vichitra's performance at her school spawned admirers just as every action of hers seemed to do. The boys were dewy-eyed and tongue-tied in her presence, even as she carelessly tossed her flowing hair and laughed merrily at their obvious discomfiture. She said nothing. She just wore her half-smile, and the tutors continued to hover, waiting for that moment when she would confess her undying love. The moment was mythical. So she continued to live, amused at the suitors, at her teachers, at jealous classmates, worrying parents, and mythical moments. She continued to look breathtaking. She continued to smile. But every once in a while, that smile turned real. The delight of the first rains, the alluring promise of first love. Vichitra suddenly noticed him. He was standing in the rain, watching her intently. He almost seemed to be staring at her. It seemed as close to impudence as she had ever seen. Such condescension, such inelegance, such veracity. For one awkward moment, they were on each other's path. As she was passing, she saw him look straight at her, a gaze she would never forget. His name was Advik. He was what you would call differently abled, sharp at some tasks and mind-numbingly clumsy at others. Medically, he could have been diagnosed as a boy with Asperger's syndrome, but such medical terms do not do well in fairy tales. Let's just call him different. Frequently the butt of jokes and tricks by his classmates, his mind was always far, far away. She laughed with the others at his clumsiness and awkwardness. Then, something about him stopped her from laughing. What was it? The intent way in which he would scribble something in his notebook, oblivious to the laughs around him? The shy half-glance that would suddenly change into a soul-bearing stare? She saw an honesty inside him that came as a breath of fresh air in the pretentious world she lived in. "What do you write in this book all the time?" she asked. "It's just a story," said Advik. "What's it about? Come on, tell me, what's it about?" she repeated as he gazed intently into his book. "It's a story about a girl falling in love with an imaginary person," he said, shyly handing the book to her. The story was like him. Very honest, very simple, and yet carried a depth that she had not experienced before. Her face spoke more eloquently than she could. Advik's face broke out into a joyous smile which completely changed the way he looked. Vichitra lost her peace. She lost her sleep. She could think of nothing else but the time she would be with the gauche, shy, and hopelessly charming Advik. Could this be love? Vichitra lived in her own inner world, and that world was beautiful. There was just room for two in that world, Vichitra and Advik. Ah, the emotion of love at 16, as beautiful as a serene sunrise and as tempestuous as a darkening sea. Vichitra's walk on the clouds continued until one day her mother came to know. The dream world collided with reality, and the sparks ignited a raging fire. With the wisdom of age, her mother and father told her that she was just 16 and the boy was insane. Love is all very well, but life needs 2 meals a day and a place to live at the very least. Coercions, pleas, threats, advice, logic. Nothing seemed to matter. Then came emotional blackmail and the threats of suicide from Vichitra's mother. Vichitra's entreaties fell on deaf ears all around her. Her parents thought it best that she be sent far, far away. And Advik, he thought happy homes cannot be built on the ashes of parents. He refused to elope with Vichitra. That spark of life, it seems so unique and precious to each one of us. That spark which tells us that we are different. Where does it go? And so she flew to a far, far away land. Her own dreams left on the curbside where Advik stood mumbling to himself. And I, solitude, flew with her. She did not know me, but I knew she would know me soon. I smiled to myself. Years passed by. Vichitra was surrounded by people. Her husband, children, her mother-in-law, friends made in a new land. And me. Solitude. How could I exist in their midst, you may wonder? But I did. Vichitra probably acknowledged my presence for the first time in her life. But she would not befriend me. So I waited in the shadows. And Vichitra lived what you call a life. By the day, there was no time to think. There was only a robotic execution of mundanities performed with a mind-numbing precision. But her freedom came at night, in her sleep. She dreamt of a figure dancing in a spotlight. She was drawn to the spotlight by a force she could not understand. There was something that seemed to say this was forbidden territory. But she moved towards the spotlight anyways, towards me. She did not know who beckoned her into the spotlight, but she understood the promise of unlimited freedom that I gave to all. The real and dream worlds alternated like day and night for Vichitra. The dreams blunted the precision of reality. Reality instilled the guilt of being in a dream. I watched on, silently.
taka dhimi tari taka taka junu junu taka taka dhimi tari taka taka junu junu taka taka dhari taka taka junu junu taka taka dhimi tari ta dhana ta junu ta dhimi ta tham dhari ta dhana ta junu ta dhimi ta tham dhari ta dhana ta junu ta dhimi ta tham.
I really don't know what it is with you. Perhaps you have been possessed. Not a care in the world about your poor husband or your children. All you want to do is dance, dance, dance.
All you want to do. That's quite the catastrophe, isn't it? How on earth can she be ever allowed to do what she wants?
Snap yourself out of it, I beg you. Look at this wonderful world we have made for ourselves. For my sake, your husband, for the sake of our children.
What is real and what is unreal? Does everyone not have the choice to be happy?
Happiness of this nature is selfish.
No, it is not selfishness. You were not born to serve or lead. You were born to live, and that is something we all forget while we are still alive.
If everyone did just that, where is the need for a society? It would lead to anarchy.
A society is formed to realize individual dreams, not for some to achieve them, and a majority to play bystanders.
Easy enough for you to say. Are you the one who will take care of her family? Are you the one who will ensure the well-being of the children so they grow up, contribute and take care of us when we reach a stage when we are unable to function?
Vichitra,
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 Vichitra, Vichitra,
Vichitra,
Vichitra.
Vichitra. Not a care in the world
Snap
about
yourself
your poor
out of it,
husband
I
or your
beg you.
All
children.
you want to do.
Look at this
you
wonderful
want to
world
do.
we have made for
Quite the
ourselves.
catastrophe, is not
For my sake, your husband,
on
for
earth
the
is
sake
not
of
born
our
to
children.
serve or lead.
Are you the one who will take care of her family?
Them to live.
Are you the one who will ensure the well-being of the
forget.
children
Bystanders
so they
we are
grow
still
up,
alive.
contribute and take care of us when we reach a stage when we are unable to function?
Selfish.
The fields that appear verdant and colorful in the sunshine of life have to reach dusk. As the sun lays its head down on the horizon, life acquires the age of centuries, the wisdom of saints and the quietness of a silent evening on a mountain trail. Vichitra has reached the age when life slowed down. There is now a measure to the pace and leisure in her breath. When the timeless soul realizes it is enveloped in an aging body, it flutters like a bird in a cage. The soft incandescence of the evening of her life frightened her at first with its long shadows. Foreboding, ominous and nondescript, solitude, caused a strange turmoil in her inner self. But then came realization, acceptance, and peace. At the dusk of her life, she found her soulmate, me. One day was no different to another, and yet, in my company, she found not just comfort, but joy. From the morning to the night, she would talk to me, her love, of things she said, she thought, and she did. She spoke of the mundane or of the esoteric. I listened. My silence was more communicative than the world that rarely pauses to listen. Her children thought she was in the grips of senility and wanted her moved to an old age home where she would be taken care of. Her neighbors thought she was losing it, perennially in conversation with nobody they could see. But I understood her. Only I understood her. And she was in love with me, the one who would stay by her side till she was ready to leave the world. And at night, she would hold my hand and smile at me knowingly. Till death do us part, she would say to me, as we walked into the darkness of sleep. My name was Solitude, and she had chosen to live her life with me. This time, it was a love to last forever.
They ask me why I search for a river in a desert, as I stand drenched in the pouring rain. How do I explain the pleasure of rains on a hill or the parched disappointment of a mirage in the desert should be the consequence of my choice alone?